Hello everyone. So today we are going to start the third unit of software engineering that is related to the design. That means software design we will talk about. In this particular topic, we are going to study the software design basic concepts. Now let's first of all see when we talk about design, which stage is design stage in the SDLC. So design is which stage in the SDLC. SDLC is the software development life cycle, which we have studied in the first unit and earlier lectures. So first, this is a generic life cycle. First step was analysis, and the outcome of analysis was SRS, that is the software requirement specification. That forms the input for the design, that is the second phase. So right now we are here in the SDLC. Okay. So let's start with this. What is a software design? Let's understand the meaning of design first of all. The meaning of design is any meaningful representation of something that is to be built. Whatever we have to build or whatever we are trying to build, for that particular, we have a meaningful representation, and that is called as the design. Now, this design can be traced to a customer requirement. Why we are saying this can be traced to a customer requirement? Because the base, the foundation of the design is the SRS document. And from where we have got this SRS document, we have analyzed it from the requirements and needs of the customers. And then we have designed this SRS. So SRS is the software requirement specification, which is based on the customer requirements, which is documented according to the requirements which are needed by the customer. So software design is a mechanism to transform user requirements or customer requirements into some suitable form, which helps the programmer in software coding and implementation. So this is how the design is prepared. Now, what is the design plan? Design plan is, we have already seen that the base that follows is the customer requirements. So first of all, design plan is software design defines a plan that is called a design plan. That means whatever plan we are going to have for designing, that is called as design plan. What are the objectives of design plan? They are to negotiate system requirements and to set expectations with customers, marketing, and management personnel. That means we have to negotiate and set a same platform for all these terms, that is for system requirements, for expectations of customers, for market, and the management personnel. This design plan will act as a blueprint during the development process. When we will move from design to development part to implementation part, that particular this design will act as a blueprint for this particular development process. And this blueprint is going to guide the implementation task, including the detailed design, the coding, the integration, and the testing. That these are the further stages of SDLC after design. So that is what the design plan is. Now, first of all, we need to answer certain questions regarding the design. Now we have just understood the basic meaning of design, of software design, and what it is. So let's understand few questions. We have few questions to answer. First, what is it? We have already seen a meaningful representation, or here we call it as a meaningful engineering representation of something that is to be built. Now, who does it? Who's going to design? The software engineers with a variety of skills ranging from human ergonomics to computer architectures. These are the people who are going to design the software. Why is it important to design the software? See, when a house can never be built without a blueprint, then why should a software be? Any hardware entity, any tangible entity is built with the help of a blueprint. So here also in software, though it is an intangible, but we need to have a design so that the system does not fail. Without design, the system may fail with small changes. It will be difficult for testing and it cannot be assessed for quality. For these 4 reasons, we need to design the software. What is the work product of this design? The design specification will be given out, which will be the work product of this stage of design in SDLC. Now, what are the outcomes of design process? The outcomes are as under this: design will be designed and documented. Both the things will be done. The designing part and the documentation part will be done in design phase. And what are these? They are, we will have different modules. We will have control relationship among these modules. That means if we have 4 modules, M1, M2, M3, and M4, then the control relationship among these modules will also be defined and documented. Interface among different modules will be defined. Data structure among different modules will be defined, and algorithms that is required to implement these individual modules will be the outcome of design process. So the modules, the control relationship among them, the interface, the data structure that is being used in this, and the algorithms which are required to implement these individual modules are the outcomes of a design process. Now, what are the objectives of software design? The objectives are, the design should be correct. Correct means, as we all know, and we have seen, the design is based on SRS, which is based on the customer requirements. So all the requirements of the customers or users should be included, and those requirements should be covered as functionalities, whatever is defined in SRS, then it will be correct. Complete means all the requirements should be addressed. Efficiency, how efficient those particular functionalities are in together, that forms the efficiency of the software design. Flexibility, the software design should be in that particular manner so that in future or any requirement changes can be adapted easily by the software design. So that particular is called as the flexibility. This defines how flexible the software design is. We can accommodate changes. Consistency, the data, the requirements, the functionalities should be consistent throughout. And lastly, the maintainability. Again, the maintainability is defined with the future changes in the software. So those changes can be easily adapted. Now, what is design model? In design model, we have 4 components. These are, first of all, the data design, architecture design, interface design, and procedural design. Data design transforms information domain model into data structure required to implement the software. Architectural design defines the relationship among major structural elements of the software. So in data design was transforming the information domain model into data structure required for implementation of software. Here, it is defining the relationship among major structural elements. Interface design is going to describe how the software communicates with the system and with the humans, that is the environment. And lastly, the procedural design, that is, it transforms structural elements of this architecture into procedural description of software components. Let's understand it in detail. See, this is what we have, the analysis model. In design, what we do, we convert this analysis model into the design model, right? So from where we are getting these data design, architecture design, interface design is from the models or from the diagrams we have already drawn in the analysis model. Example, the data design, the data structure we were talking about, so that is being defined with the help of data dictionary and with the help of ER diagram. You can see this. So that is what we have done here. Architectural design, what we need to have the data flow, how the data is being flowing from one component to the other component, that is the architectural elements. Next is interface design, again the DFD. And lastly, the procedural design is got from the process specification and from the object, just from the control specification and state transition diagram. So all these are what, this is how the conversion of analysis model into design model takes place. Now, what is the design quality of a software? The design quality of a software, first thing, the design is the stage where the quality is instilled. That means the quality is instilled in the design stage. Design is assessed by two formal techniques, that is called as formal review and another as walkthrough. Now the major thing, what are the characteristics of a good design? So we need to make sure that a good design must implement the explicit requirements and accommodate the implicit requirements. We have already seen and understood the meaning of explicit and implicit requirements in the earlier lectures. Must be readable and understandable guide for coding and testing. We have already seen that this particular design specification will help in further coding, integration and testing part. So it should be, and it must be readable and understandable completely. Third thing, it should provide a complete picture of a software from an implementation perspective. That means during the implementation, it should give a clear picture of this perspective. Now, what are the software design failures, process failures? There are three main things that leads to design failure. Those are first and the foremost is non-conformation to user needs and design constraints. That means if you are not addressing all the needs or requirements of the user or the customer, it will fail for sure. Next one, inadequate design documentation. We have already seen that with the design, we also need the documentation. So design documentation should be adequate enough to complete the process and to make it more understandable and act as a guideline for the implementation perspective. And lastly, poor workable design is again a design process failure. So thank you very much.